In the previous video, I showed you how to put together a very simple sentiment card front frame. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this now though, because I want to change this and weld the word to the edge of that square. Now currently these are grouped, so they're acting as one shape. So I will start by ungrouping and return to where I only have the square, and then because this was grouped, I will ungroup that as well. This now means that I can cycle through using my selection tools until I get to that circle. I can then delete that from this design. OK to delete selected data. And remember, this is just clearing it off this mat, not from the memory. Now I can cycle through and select the word aunt. I'd like to weld it to the edge of that card though. So I'm going to go into my pattern editing selections, and I will use the rotate to rotate it 90 degrees so that it's on its end, and then I will use my alignment tools to move that over so that it's just overlapping the edge. And remember, I've got my zoom facility so that I can go in and take a look much closer where that is. I think I need to just adjust that a little bit more. There we go. Now remember, my weld function is disabled right now because I've only got one shape selected. So with my selection tools, I will select both, and the weld feature is now activated. So if I tap on that, I get the message saying OK to weld. If you don't get this message or receive an error message, it's likely that your shapes aren't overlapping or they're not closed shapes. So you'll need to adjust those before you can go ahead and weld. If I tap OK, that now becomes the one shape with a single welded outline. We can then go ahead and cut that or make any additional changes we want before proceeding on to the next step. Before I do that though, I will need to add a couple of shapes, and I'm going to add a circle. I like it to be fairly small, so I'll decrease that all the way down to about 1.5 inches, or in fact exactly 1.5 inches. I would like 3 of those, and I will set those on the mat. Right, now we go back into our pattern editing screen. One of my circles is selected, and I will simply drag that down and follow it with the other 2. What I'm aiming to do is have some evenly spaced circular apertures running down the left hand side of that shape. In order to do that, I have some amazing shortcuts available in my alignment tools, but to access those I will need to have all 3 circles selected. In my selection tools, I use the partial select, and I will isolate just those circles. Now don't panic that the square is protruding into that highlighted area. As long as the outline is cut off at some point, it won't be selected. There you can see I now have just those 3 circles selected, which is exactly what I wanted. Click OK to confirm that selection, and then enter the alignment tools. We'll go into the shortcuts, and now we have those options that we had before, plus these alignment tools, and these will only light up or illuminate if you have 3 or more shapes selected. The first thing that I'm going to do is make sure they're all aligned vertically, so I'll tap on this icon here, and then I'd like them to be evenly spaced, so I have this option down here. I could do this horizontally, but in this case, because they're all running down, I will tap on this icon, and what it does is it works out the available space of the overall selection and then positions the shapes equally along that space. I can then tap OK, and once more to confirm all of those changes, and so that I don't risk getting those out of line, I will group them so they'll only act as one shape now. And then I will select everything and then group that too. So now this is basically one shape. So if I now make any adjustments to that design, those perfectly positioned apertures, the word and everything else will be resized in proportion and in the right place. And even then, if I decrease this in size enough, I will get an exact duplicate by increasing the number and clicking OK. So now I could go on to make 2 or more or replicate this any number of times. And if I click OK once more from the pattern editing screen, we are then returned to the pattern layout screen, where we can go on to use our foiling or embossing kits or cutting and drawing tools.